Right, on to the Brighton game then. The final of our 3 consecutive home games is this weekend. And of course, it's Brighton who visit St Mary's. It was an interesting one there last time, Alfie. I felt like we should have got more than a point. We were a bit disappointed after that one.
Yeah, that was one of the final Russell Martin games, right? I'm trying to think what the circumstances.
Was it the Friday night? It was the Friday night.
It was
game,
Friday night. Yeah, I'm trying to think what the circumstances were at the time. I think
a bit of VAR, wasn't there?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, the Adam Armstrong VAR controversial. Obviously, Joe Lumley was in goal back then as well. Let's not forget, with McCarthy and Ramsdale both injured. They probably deserve something more out of that. But I think, is that the first away point of the season? Obviously, they've got the one at Ipswich now. But I mean, Brighton have just won a game. I think they've been on a bit of a rocky spell, haven't they? But they played Chelsea twice and beaten them twice. So I wonder if they'll be a little bit more confident now. I mean, when they were beaten 7-0 a couple of weeks ago by Forest, I mean, you just think that maybe there's a winnable game in there. And, I think Glen has sort of spoken about Fabian Hertzler and what he thinks of him a couple of times on the podcast. And it just looked like it was starting to go sour. But, to beat Chelsea twice in a row at home, obviously a couple of good results for them. They'll come in knowing that there's obviously a massive chance for them to win.
They're on a bit of form, Steve. They've had, as Alfie says, some great results against Chelsea. What are you expecting from them? They seem to like hitting teams on the break, don't they? Which doesn't bode too well.
No, but also very different home compared to away. I mean, that game at Forest was absolutely extraordinary, where he set themselves up in a 4-1-5 formation with like an 18-year-old as the one in central midfield, and expected that to go well against the likes of Gibbs White and players like that. It's the sort of selection that Juric would do in that scenario, isn't it? It's absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, Brighton, at the end of the day, they're another squad that is full of good players now. They're an established Premier League side. They've qualified for Europe. They obviously matched us in finishing 6th a couple of years ago. So yeah, they're a decent side, but then they're pretty inconsistent and pretty wildly inconsistent. I would say you could genuinely toss a coin at the start of a game as to whether you're going to get the good Brighton or the awful Brighton. And defensively, they've been a little bit ropey. So something for us to go out there. I mean, we saw the second half, especially the game that we played down there before Christmas, where we created a lot of chances in that second half and should have won the game, really. Obviously, dubious VAR call and all that, but we had other chances. It wasn't just that cost us 3 points. And if we're able to play with a bit more intensity, then there's a lot to kind of go at there. I think they've still got quite a lot of injuries defensively. I think Dunk's still injured. Although, I mean, arguably in his advancing years, actually, we'd probably rather someone like him playing, because he's pretty sort of slow and cumbersome.
I mean, their back three on the weekend, Steve, was Veltman, Van Hecker, and Adam Webster, who would all probably be Southampton's best defender. So,
well, yeah, I mean, but that's a very low bar, isn't it?
Yeah, say that across the whole team.
Yeah, but there's holes there. They don't necessarily, similar to us actually. The midfield doesn't always seem to kind of offer the right amount of protection to the defence. So maybe that's a game for someone like Fernandes or Dibbling to play and operate in that little pocket and create stuff there. And I mean, there's always hope, isn't there?
We said this might be one where we can get a point, Glenn. What's the minimum expectation you're expecting when you see that team sheet at 1:45?
Well, I mean, I'd like us to play 4 at the back. I'd like us to play the same formation as Bournemouth, sort of 4-2-3-1, but that we could get all our best players on the pitch if we did that. But
that'd be madness.
Yeah, I know. It's a novel approach. I think I think there might be something in it. You could have Fernandes, Dibbling, and Sulemana behind Tall Paul, perhaps. But there you go. We won't do that, of course. We'll do whatever. We'll probably leave Amo-Ameyaw out for that game. Bring Dibbling back in. I don't know. It's hard to make any sort of compelling argument for us to get anything out of it. I mean, people have been highlighting our home record over the last 3 years. It's laughable, isn't it? At Premier League, it's only 6 wins out of 76 or something like that. It's just appalling.
I mean, the ludicrous thing with that is the fact that every single home game this season is still selling out. It's mental.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think this Brighton one was maybe one of the first ones where that might be a struggle. But I guess we'll see how that goes in the next few days.
Having said we're selling out, I mean, going off on a bit of a tangent here, against Bournemouth and previously against Newcastle, there seemed to be loads of away fans in the home end. You can spot them at the start of the game when they can't find their seats, when they're walking around, they don't know where they're going. And they're never wearing Saints colours, and you can spot them quite easily. But I do wonder how many of our fans are doing what I'm doing, is that you're turning up with zero expectations. You're watching the game. We go 2-0 down, and then it's just like you just sit there going, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Oh yeah, because I always do this. I've been doing it for 50 years in my case. So yeah, it's there's not much enjoyment, is there, out of watching us, certainly at home, certainly sober. But back to Brighton. Brighton are a team that have got a few weaknesses in it. So like we identified Lewis Cook last week as playing at right back as someone we could get at. You got Tariq Lamptey, one of the fullbacks. We've got at him before, and I don't think the defence is that great. And I think we should have won the game at Brighton. Obviously, we had a different manager then. We probably had more idea of what we were doing back then, which is hard to imagine.
There was a very very well defined game plan back under Martin, wasn't there? Which ultimately, I don't think in any game this season, I don't think we've seen. Under Juric, I don't think anybody could identify a style that we're trying to play.
Yeah, possibly against West Ham, his very first home game, where we looked like we were going to get the ball forward quickly and have as many shots as we could, but we've stopped doing that because that was fun. We don't want to have any fun, obviously. So I don't know. I just think Brighton they've only got to turn up and play reasonably well. And they'll be too good for us. They got the lad. I can't, forgive me, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Is it Balaba in midfield? He's their sort of like holding midfielder by the look of it. Looks
Caicedo replacement who somehow seems to outclass Caicedo on the weekend.
So we've got to get that area of the team right, which we obviously didn't get right. The Flynn Downs thing, that needs to be sorted. I mean, the fact that it's now been a week and a half and it still hasn't been sorted, that implies to me that there's one or two people on both sides of the argument who are just being stubborn for the sake of it.
And he's still getting paid, presumably. He doesn't get paid any less money, does he?
It's supposed to be fixable, so fix it.
Yeah.
Because we need him as an option, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench. But no, I think we're going to struggle against Brighton, obviously, and it would be nice to beat Mr. Hertzler, because he didn't leave a very favourable impression on me in the last game. It's just that I'm entitled to win this game because you're bottom of the league. So hopefully he comes in with that attitude again on Saturday and we can turn him over. But I'm not expecting to, that's for sure.
Could be another long afternoon. Let's do some score predictions. I've got to say, Alfie got it's spot on for Bournemouth. Although I think, was it 6 3-1s I've had? So I was just trying to think, if you call 3-1 every week, then I think you'd be top of the predictions league by now. Entries are open for Brighton predictions, by the way. So if you're a Patreon and you play along, you can find the link on Patreon for that. 12 people also got the correct score in the Patreon predictions league for Bournemouth. By far the highest number so far this season. So more movement at the top there. Alfie, I'll give you the honour of going first this week. Do you want to get the 3-1 in nice and early?
Honestly, I don't know. I've not thought about it at all. I mean, I would like them to not concede 2 corners in 60 seconds, just to set the tone of the game right. That'd be nice. On the back foot immediately. Yeah, I mean, obviously the safe numbers on 3-1, but I've got a weird feeling, so I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Okay, Steve.
Well, I'll take Alfie's place then and go 3-1. I mean, Rutter has not done anything against us in 4 games now for both Leeds and Brighton, but I fully expect that to be rectified now that he'll have a little bit of space to operate in. So yeah, that's a danger. Mitoma's fit again as well, isn't he? So yeah, he's a problem. He's going to be a very big problem because he'll flitter sort of in and out of positions and causes no end.
I mean, his touch for the goal on the weekend against Chelsea,
absolutely extraordinary.
Magnificent. Yeah, really good. Really good. When they rejected a £75 million bid from a Saudi club of some sort in January. When a club's in a position to reject a £75 million bid for a player who I think he's not young, is he? He's 26, 7, 8. Fair play.
Well, we don't know what they offer for Bednarek, do we? So you never know. Glenn, do you want to? I mean, you were this close yesterday to getting it right. If that one that Ramsdale kept out was a hell of a save, and if that had gone in, then you 4-1.
My 4-1 could have been on. Yeah, and I'd have been like the woman who had got that shirt off of Adam Armstrong. Yeah, celebrating getting absolutely smashed. I think we've got a better chance in this game than we have in the Bournemouth one because of Brighton's inconsistency. How will we do them? It's Danny Welbeck up front for them, isn't it? So how he'll react to having Bednarek clumsily swarming all over him. Mitoma and Minte look quite a scary prospect, to be honest. So we're going to have to sort out the central defence. I don't know. I can't imagine Nathan Wood will play again. So it'll be interesting to see who we slot into there.
Will it be Joe Aribo from the start this time? Will he bite the bullet?
Would surprise me.
Well, it won't be Bella Kotchap, will it?
No, it won't be Bella Kotchap. I mean, but then if you play Joe Aribo there, do you play Will Smallbone again, or you'd have to play Leslie Ukachukwu, and I guess you could put Fernandez back there, which might be better.
Yeah, and that means you can then get Diblin, Cameron, and Paul in the front three, which isn't. That's not a bad idea.
There you go, Ivan. We've picked your team for you. Put it in the same bloody formation that you always do. And,
you mentioned Bella Kotchap, mine. Did anybody notice how long he warmed up for? By the way, this week
I was watching him a little bit, and also he was out warming up at half time. Well, I think he was literally on his own, just getting.
I don't know. He must just hate everybody else and doesn't want to be anywhere near them because he loves just standing in that far corner by the chapel. Fair play.
Yeah, don't blame me. But yeah, anyway, we're going to get beat 2-1. There you go.
2-1. Okay, nice one.